Hey guys, we're Matthew and Sarah from Amateur Filmies, and today we'll be reviewing Zombieland Double Tap.
Zombieland Double Tap follows on from the first movie where we see Columbus, Tallahassee, Little Rock and Wichita fight their way through the zombie apocalypse. It is set a few years after, and the group has to deal with a different breed of zombie.
A problem arises when Little Rock decides that she wants to leave the group and go on a trip with a guy that she just met, so the main cast has to go on a trip themselves to try and find her.
When I first watched Zombieland as a teenager, I really loved it. I watched it with my little brothers and I thought Jesse Eisenberg was cute and hilarious in it. And as soon as they announced the sequel, I was so excited. It also has the perfect mix of comedy, drama and horror. And I thought it was perfect. It's quite terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember it was definitely watched at a time when I was really big into zombie movies. I mean, I still am, but that was one of my favourite ones growing up. I think I was 15 when it came out. And yeah, it was very memorable. I love the opening sequence with Metallic, and it just made a big impression on me, both the action and just stylistically. I thought it was really unique at the time. Sarah and I just got back from the theatre after having just watched this film, and we wanted to share our thoughts. So first, the positives.
I thought the performances in this were fantastic, especially from Jesse Eisenberg and Woody Harrelson. But Zoe Deutsch was actually a standout performance in this because she was just so funny. She just added that little bit of lightness that the movie needed, I think.
So I definitely think that the main cast were really good at going back into their personas from the original film. You know, Tallahassee still feels like the Tallahassee we knew back in the 2009. Same with Wichita and Columbus. Little Rock as well, yeah. I think the new characters that have been introduced in this film, while they are quite one-dimensional, I think they do provide the main characters an opportunity to sort of riff off each other and, get into funny situations. So they are they're quite good additions to the film in that sense. But yeah, it's really interesting to see. It's a relief to see that they have gone back into their original characters with such ease. So another good thing about this sequel is that they successfully, in my opinion, recreated the style that defined the first film. In the sense that, there was really well choreographed action sequences. And, and remember in the first one how they had the text would pop up when they were going through the rules that they had to abide by. I thought that really accentuated the comedy in certain aspects of it, especially when it would mimic the dialogue as they're speaking it. So in that sense, it was cool to see that style 10 years on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think that text element you're talking about is a subtle homage to the reference material, which is Max Brooks's Zombie Survival Guide, which I think is pretty cute. I still have to read that one. I was stuck on World War Z or World War Z, but yes, I digress. I think the biggest factor for me personally loving this film was that the fact that the gore hit very well, and so did the comedy. They made meta references to the previous movie and to films in general, and the comedic timing was pretty good, especially with Jesse Eisenberg's scenes. And yeah, that's what I look for in a horror comedy. That being said, it's not without its flaws.
Yes, and I definitely have some opinions that are probably going to differentiate from Sarah because she said that she loves this movie, while I personally did not, but we'll get into that right now. One of the major things that holds this film back, I believe, is the writing, unfortunately. Growing up as a teenager watching the first film, I came to appreciate the character arcs that were explored in that film and the relationships that were built between the main cast. However, when we come to watch the second movie, it really feels that this relationship that they all had together and, the emotional connection that we share with them as the audience, it really felt of little to no consequence for this film.
Yeah, they sort of cheapened the relationship to drive the narrative forward.
Yes, that's right. And part of this also sort of plays into one of the other negatives of the film, which is the fact that, they decided in this film to prioritize the comedic elements over the dramatic side, which can be fine. That's not so much of a problem as long as it is reflected in good writing. But unfortunately, because this relationship between the characters has been cheapened by certain narrative choices in the film, it really felt like the emotional high points in the film where we're supposed to be on the edge of our seat and really worried about what might happen to these characters, it really had no impact on me personally.
Absolutely. And I remember the scene in the first movie that really got me emotionally is when Woody Harrelson's stuck in that little sort of ticket booth thing and he's shooting up all the zombies and that dramatic music's playing. And for a moment you get emotional because you think, yeah, he's gone and he's such a good character and he ends up surviving. But it doesn't, there's nothing to feel like that in the second movie. There's no equivalence.
That's right, yes. And we won't go into the spoiler territory. We don't want to reveal what aspects of these films should have been more emotional for us, because obviously we want you to go watch it for yourselves. But yeah, it was frustrating as a fan of the original film to feel like these characters didn't give a crap about each other at some points in the film. Obviously, you might feel differently if you watch it yourself. You might think that their relationship was explored fine, but personally, I was really disappointed that I wasn't more invested in their plights as, characters who are supposed to be, really fond of each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This movie is set 10 years after the first movie. And in all that time, you imagine that they would develop relationships and build that connection. And certain character decisions make it seem like they mean nothing to each other.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense.
It's like they've known each other for 6 weeks, not 10 years. You know what I mean? Imagine how cut up you'd feel. You see in the trailer, the main thing that drives this film forward, as we said, is the fact that Little Rock has gone off on her own and they have to find her. I think you'd be a bit more concerned if you had known this girl for over 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't... I expected much more personal turmoil. And, I understand it's not a drama film. It's a comedy, like a horror comedy. But, drama drives the film... Drama should also underpin the film. Do you know what I mean? And that sort of balance is what makes a film memorable, to me at least. And that was definitely the case in the first one. But... it made no sense to me that they did away with that sort of aspect. Another aspect of the writing that I personally didn't like is, this might play into the directing style as well, actually, I should say, but obviously that is tied in with the writing itself. Rather than the film feeling like, a 3-act structure or a 5-act structure or however, normal films play out, rather than feeling like this is some sort of cohesive story that plays and we get to see this journey, it sort of more felt like individual sequences that were just sort of cut and copied and pasted right next to each other. So it felt like, let's going to deal with this situation, and then this one. It felt more like little episodic parts that made up the whole, rather than something that just sort of flowed naturally.
I get what you're saying, but I think the first movie is exactly like that. There's no driving plot in the first movie. They sort of, they meet each other, and then they meet the girls, and then the girls betray them, and then they catch back up with them, and then the girls ditch them again, and they have to save them. It's sort of... There's no driving plot in that one either.
I guess my response to that would be, in the first film, while the plot is not too dissimilar from the sequel, we didn't know the characters at that time. So the first film was sort of more about, establishing these characters that we didn't know anything about at the time. We got to know their personalities, how they interact with each other, what happens to them when they engage in a specific plot. But in the sequel, we already know these characters. So I guess I was hoping for something more cohesive and convincing, I guess you could say, or more engaging of a storyline. I wanted a storyline that sort of was more meaningful and impactful and gave them a chance to sort of do something a bit different than the first one. So with all that being said, do we recommend the film?
I do. I think if you love the zombie genre and you love horror comedies, I highly recommend it. It's not the best zombie movie out there, but it's definitely worth watching. What about you?
I would say that if you enjoyed the first film, which, a lot of people did, and I guess if you're watching this review, you probably did enjoy the first one, I would say it's still worth checking out. It's very possible that you might not have the same either expectations or issues with the film that I did. I just felt that from a filmmaking point of view, the script could have been refined a little bit better, and hence we might have gotten a better structured movie. However, as I said, there are still a lot of things to like about it. We've got great action, the comedy is still there. It was really good to see the original cast doing what they do best.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so I would say on those terms, I would recommend it, despite what I did mention about the film. This is our first review that we've ever done. That being said, we're not too sure about how we're going to approach the rating system yet. We figured for the time being, we might just stick with the general A, B, C sort of grade. We might refine how we approach rating films in the future, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to give it a rating. So if you had to do that, what would your rating be?
Oh, I'd probably give it a B-.
I would probably give it a C. A hard C.
Well,
just saying.
The truth has come out. Thank you for watching our review of Zombieland Double Tap. Let us know if you've seen it and how you like it. And also let us know if you like our review content. We won't be offended if you say no. Just leave some feedback in the comments.
If you liked this video, feel free to subscribe to our channel. If you want to see anything else film related, we'll be doing reviews and other sort of collection orientated stuff. But yeah, we hope you liked it, and we thank you very much for watching.
Thank you very much.